Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to all of you who've joined us today. I'm Preeti Malhotra and I'll be anchoring this conversation on behalf of Great Place to Work. Some of you, of course, have had interacted with me earlier. I'm a part of the leadership team and I also head the wellness practice at Great Place. We're very honored today to have two amazing speakers amidst us. And before I get on to introducing them, let me just take a moment to one, thank all of you once again, and also share the context of how we started this, right? So I think many of you have, of course, worked with us, have interacted with us, and are aware of what we do. Wellness is a journey we started interestingly a little before COVID hit India. And we partnered with MediBuddy to launch the only study of its kind which looks at health and wellness and also aims to bring to all of us what a workplace wellness index would look like. And as a part of our vision of making India a healthy place to work, we started on this journey. And then, of course, I think COVID hit, and we realized that right from top five priorities that employees had when they looked at an organization in terms of it being a great workplace culture, employee well-being shot up to top two. Yeah, which I think in the current context is not a surprise at all. Uh, and I think among all the concerns, challenges that we've had during the last year and a half, uh, the focus on wellness is one thing which I think is among the few positives that this pandemic has brought. Yeah. Without much further ado, let me introduce you to my two esteemed guests for today. So we have Anjali Raghuvanshi. You see her on screen. She's the Chief People Officer for Randstad India. She's a strategic business partner who facilitates, supports, and challenges business leaders along with anticipating the much needed focus and change in workplace dynamics. With we all know our ever changing, ever dynamic, and unpredictable landscape that we are all in. She has a huge experience across industries, and of course, even as a part of role in Randstad India, they work with people from different industry sectors. She's an expert in driving strategic resource optimization and rationalization initiatives through the organization. She has been instrumental in business continuity through developing a talent management framework and is very, very focused not just on wellness but ensuring that overall at Randstad India and whoever she interacts with, in fact, I've had the opportunity to do that a few times, really brings out the warmth and that focus on well being as an individual and someone who is leading HR for Randstad. So, welcome, Anjali. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Preeti.
We also have with us Jayanti Vidyanathan. Jayanti is the Senior Director of Human Resources at PayPal India. She also leads the entire HRBP community across APAC for PayPal. Jayanti has 20 plus years of experience and she has been with PayPal for over 13 years. And in that stint, she has helped shape and drive the entire talent strategy and has also enabled the organization's transformation vision aimed at enhancing employment and business value proposition. Also, we at Great Place have had the privilege and opportunity to really work with PayPal over very many years, and PayPal is among the laureates, which means that they have been recognized among the top 100 workplaces in India for over 10 years. So actually, it's under her leadership that was for 12 plus years that they have been recognized. So I think it's very fundamental to them that they maintain that high trust, high performance culture. Interestingly, when we talk about health and well being, wellness is among the four values at PayPal. So they've had this very well established and integrated in their workplace culture. The reason we have these two guests with us today is because both PayPal and Randstad did not start on their wellness journey when COVID hit, right? Both of them have had employee well-being very much at the core of what their workplace culture stands for. And so we thought that, learning from them would really help us in understanding how they have implemented this in their organizations, their experience, their learnings. I also see a couple of raised hand. I wanted to just say that we do have a dedicated time for questions at the end of our conversation. The way we have planned the conversation is that we will talk through and take you through some of the experiences of both Jayanti and Anjali at PayPal and Randstad. You can please feel free to chat in your questions or anything that you would like us to address. And we will also have dedicated time for Q&A towards the end. Is that okay? Prabhasuni, I see your raised hand. If that is okay, we will, just proceed. Jayanti, also, I think we do not see your video. So welcome for joining. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. It is such a delight to have both these strong women with me today. I have had, I think, many opportunities to talk to both of you, and I think your passion for really driving a great workplace culture really comes through. So let me just go right in. Maybe starting with you, Jayanti. For PayPal, like I said, wellness is one of the 4 values that you have, and it has been an integral part of the culture. I would just request you to give us an overview of maybe the PayPal business, the people spread, and how wellness really stands out in your culture, because everyone may not be familiar with PayPal.
Sure. Thanks, Preeti. Firstly, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. And you guys couldn't have timed wellness as your focus. You just before the pandemic hit, I know all the awesome work that you started. So congratulations and kudos. I think all the more, I wish that your journey gets strengthened and you continue to do some good work and enlighten us as well and enable us to learn. So, yes, as you rightly said, PayPal as a company has always been steeped in the foundational belief of employee wellness. You know that that's our core value, as you rightly said, along with inclusion and collaboration are the other 2 values. And these 2, along with wellness, is the crux or defines us in terms of how we do things, not just what we do, right? Like how do we actually enable it for our people? From a business standpoint, PayPal is a global leader in digital payments, as many of you might know, and there is a significant pressure on us to continue to be market leaders, to be in the top Fortune 500 that we've been in. So with that pressure, I think the innovation that people bring and their passion are really our assets that help us stay on course on our mission to democratize financial services for everyone around the world. Hence, innovation is our 4th value and is an important muscle for us to stay in the game. Innovation will never happen if people don't feel good. So essentially, these 4 values come together in a beautiful way, not only because it's the right thing to do for us, our people, but it also gives us a bread and butter and helps us stay in the game and helps us stay true to our focus and, really how we do what we do. Essentially, I think the last 1.5 years, how we do our business has also shifted. Our products are now embracing, financial wellness of the community, right? I mean, not just the pandemic, but we shifted our focus to focus on the unbanked, underbanked, supporting a large-scale social giving platform. November, December, for example, we collected more than $1 billion that people using our product wanted to give, for wellness in the community. So it's blended very well, with our business as well. From a people standpoint, I'll just call out a couple of things. One, just thinking about the how, I think for us overall, this focus has helped us truly become a global company. I think working styles have moved to be naturally inclusive. It's no longer about, meetings that is centered on HQ times. I mean, we do morning meetings and we may do evening meetings like everybody does, meetings through their day and whatever is convenient for the majority of the population versus as being centered around Pacific time zones, which is where our company is headquartered in, right? So fundamental changes. Our meeting rooms have posters that serve as a constant reminder that every voice in the room has to be heard in a meeting. simple techniques to listen, like importance of round robin versus being hijacked by the loudest voice in the room. So those are some fundamental, very simple, but very strong kind of stuff that is no longer a focus, right? It is given today, So we're no longer thinking about educating people on how to meet with the teams globally, or how to practice inclusion, like what I said, day to day when you conduct a meeting, when you do a one-on-one, when you're having a team conversation, right, which is fundamental awareness. Two other elements, I'll stop there, which are dear to us. One, just looking at the thread, we can keep going different facets, but I'll focus on two. Financial wellness, I think it's a fundamental level. We brought significant changes. We wanted every single employee to be able to prepare for an unexpected roadblock, access the best of healthcare, take a well-deserved vacation, right? Those were our fundamental tenets. And to achieve this, we said, we adjusted base wages across the company a couple of years ago. We improved our financial education and planning, teaching people, whether it's a good option to invest in an LIC insurance program to something else, and so on, as fundamental as that. And made every single employee a shareholder of PayPal. For example, every employee has PayPal stocks, and as the company grows, their financial muscle also grows. So we called this wellness stock grants, for example. We also covered what we called an employee relief fund to meet these unique contingencies. So that's hashtags of enabling people to financially sustain themselves, have a holiday, have the best of healthcare. For example, how we covered changed over time, right? We mix and match partners, for example. You could cover your one parent in-law and the one of your parents, for example. We cover same-sex partners, for example. We top up at subsidized costs, for example. You could add your dependents. So those were some of the small things that we did that kind of enabled us in our journey. And it's no longer one size fits all. It's no longer one global program, but just learning to handle those nuances across different aspects of our people. For example, the last thing, people in India want to talk to somebody, want to look at somebody physically, right? Like they want the touch and feel of a person versus calling an EAP helpline, which some of the markets are very comfortable. So we introduced business mentors on the ground. We introduced gynecologists on call in office, that you have a person to engage with, right? So those are some of the things that, we did in our journey over time.
Thank you, Jayanti. I think that gives us quite a context, and of course we'll talk about some of these as we go along. But what I heard you say was, one, fundamentally, foundationally, there were some things which were there, and how did you really enable them was very well thought through, and considering the current context, and of course yours is also a regulated business, right? So I think moving that to home and all the nuances would have been a challenge in itself. So great to hear that. So coming to you, Anjali, I know that even for Randstad globally, well-being has been at the center of how you kind of drive your overall culture. And I know that physical well-being was definitely, I think overall fitness was a big part of how you kind of drove initiatives. And we very often saw leaders actually leading those initiatives. So do tell us about again, similarly, I think just as an introductory piece, give us a little bit of a business context, people, and then about wellness.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Preeti, first of all, for setting the context so well. And just to give a glimpse to our listeners in terms of course, Randstad is a staffing organization. We are into the recruitment consulting, and one of the number one player in the field. So that's globally. But at the same time, as we are talking about psychological and emotional well-being, and as Preeti mentioned, that these are not the things that came only during the pandemic to organizations, right? So we actually came up with our brand promise of human forward a few years before even the pandemic kind of hit, and this has actually emerged as when people were talking about disruption and technology, and we said that we are an organization who believes in the power of humans. So while that went into our brand promise, it also translated internally in terms of things and the way we do things in the organization. And that's how I think the whole value of people is something in Randstad has always been there, but it kind of took a very very different shape altogether with this new promise to our employees and to our clients emerging out of this, right? At Randstad, just to give a bit of framework to everyone and so that people can ask questions and then we can delve into it a little bit more, we had a framework that came up, which is called Be Kind to Your Mind, Body and Spirit, right? It's not just the mind, it's the body and the spirit, which are also equally important for your psychological and emotional well-being. And under that umbrella, we said that, okay, 4 things are essential within Randstad. Number 1 is your peace of mind, because unless you don't have the peace of mind, you really can't bring your best self to work wherever you are, right? And it may even mean inclusiveness, it may even mean financial well-being, and your family being well as well, right? The second piece was a lot about your mental well-being, which is where even Jayanti spoke about how they are trying to have wellness mentors in the organization. We have our own partner, which is Your Dost, which has been a great partner for us through the mental well-being journey. The third aspect is, as Preeti said, fitness. So physical well-being is equally important for you to be focused, disciplined at whatever you do, right? So that becomes an important aspect. And last but not the least is the celebrations, right? You can't be, I mean, as humans, we are social people. We like to be interacting with people. We like to celebrate. So we can't miss the element of celebration and celebrating together. So I think these 4 were the sub pillars of Be Kind to Your Mind, Body and Spirit at Randstad. And that's how we've gone forward, Preeti.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I've seen that human forward now. I kind of, can almost visualize it when you speak. But yes, I think that came around very, very strongly in our interactions, definitely with you, Paul, other leaders, but also with anybody in the team that we interacted with. And I think that was a nice way to, because all of us were, I think, stretching. There were no boundaries, and especially with leaders, people were stressed out, anxious, and that just a simple thing of be kind to your mind, take that pause, I think really helped, right? So it's just re-emphasizing that focus. So thank you both of you. Moving ahead, I think we all know that for research tells us, not just Great Place research, but anything, anywhere, when we talk about holistic wellness, and you both mentioned both physical and mental wellness, and I think mental has really become a focus, especially in the pandemic. WHO tells us that it has gone up multifold, and of course we are still on a long journey before it really reaches what we need as a country. But definitely, when we look at it in the organization context, for anything to be effective, it leaders have to really lead by example, right? And that's why I think even the topic today, and during this entire, I think, continued pandemic now more than a year and a half, uh, leaders were also, of course, in the beginning looking at the entire business continuity aspect, right? And of course, wellness became almost integral, and that's how it was top two priorities. So, if you could tell us, what did your leaders do to, just reinforce that, okay, this is top priority, so that communication and messaging has to go from the leader first, right? So, how did that happen in your organization, and how did you sort of go about really implementing it then? Any one of you could go first. I would love to know that from both of you. So, yeah.
Or maybe I'll begin and probably Jayanti could add. So in terms of what we've done at Randstad, I mean, one is we do talk about intent a lot, in the sense that this is a belief at Randstad that when the intent is there, it does not matter resources and how big or how small you are. It's, the right things happen. So that is one of the beliefs. But intent has to materialize into action. It has to convert into action as well, right? So we have a huge belief in walk the talk in the leadership. And so how do you walk the talk in a situation like this? It's about how you really open your meeting, and when your CEO begins a conversation with how are you doing, and people first, business next, it does set a tone in the organization, and then kind of gets cascaded very well that we have to treat our people and we have to ensure that their safety, their health, their families are first, because only when that's taken care of, they will be able to come and do what you expect them to do at the work level. So this is something that has happened at Randstad. We've ensured that every leader walks the talk, and it's not just the CEO, but the leaders next and the leaders next level as well, right? And so consistent messaging has been the other aspect, I would see. It's not like, okay, once in a year, you kind of started your conversation with saying, hey, we care for our people. And thereafter, there is nothing that happens on a similar line, right? So you have to be very consistent in your message. Every platform, like we have town halls, we have campus meetings that happen. Everywhere the leader, whoever is speaking, starts the meeting with that. So we made a change in our way we kind of interacted with people. Instead of bringing spreadsheets first with numbers and financials, we actually started with people first. So there you have talk about how are people doing, what are the challenges across. So that became the main topic rather than pushing HR updates and HR at the end of the presentation, right? Which is generally the thing, okay, we'll talk about people the last. So here we brought people the first. And we believe that when you start walking the talk, and it's small movements, right? Small steps that kind of slowly start gathering momentum and become a movement within your own organization. And that's how I would say that Be Kind to Your Mind, Body and Spirit became a movement, because from the leadership, we started saying that why your fitness is so important. So you had videos of leaders doing planks and walking videos and other things that they took interest. And then you started seeing the rest of the organization coming on and sharing their videos and pictures that, hey, I'm walking at so and so and I walk every day. So these are I think are some ways of ensuring that leadership walk the talk and they become the first set of people to evangelize about movements. But at the same time, important that rest of the organization also catches up, and that's where the whole design piece plays the big role in terms of how and which platforms do you pick with your people. For instance, we realized that people weren't reading mails. They are like working from home. There's so much to take care of, that we actually came up with innovative ways of doing, reaching out to them. And especially employees' testimonials for us work the best when people started saying that this works for me, so try it out and do this and do that. So I think that's probably Randstad's journey in terms of how leadership played a big role. And you've seen Preeti Paul in terms of whether it is Oxfam, where we kind of walked together for betterment of women as well as for our own employee health. He's been at the front, always doing it. So when that happens, the rest of the leaders come in as well, and then the rest of the organization also follows the suit. So that's been our experience at Randstad.
Thank you. Thanks, Anjali. I think in the entire conversation, I think there were these 2-3 things that I took away. And one that you started with saying that it's not about how big you are or whether you need big budgets, right? Even whatever we've heard from both the organizations till now, you don't need huge budgets to do this. It starts with an intent. Then, of course, the leader role models, and the more important piece is also about the consistency of it, right? So it's not that when we started, we said it, but you are seeing it day in, day out. And if it is happening consistently, and if one person is taking that time out, then that spreads, right? So thank you. And generally, I remember that I think when the pandemic had barely started, globally, Dan was among the first few leaders to make some of those announcements, reassure people that whatsoever happens to the business, we are protecting jobs, because there was just so much uncertainty. So I remember, I do follow him on LinkedIn. So he, and then of course, Guru in India. So would love to know from you some of the things that you did.
Yeah, I think as you rightly said, I don't think we had to just literally start our journey during the pandemic. We just needed to realign, refine some of the leadership character and expectations we had already set. Even earlier, a lot of our meetings would start with recognition, would start with, you'll hear a lot of clapping in all meetings. So the mood was always set, right? Leadership behaviors, we're already in some sense aligned to wellness and to, check-ins and so on. I think fundamentally for us, talking to people, we did listening surveys every week. We did our wellness surveys that enabled the leaders, and leaders would get their own scores and their leadership board. And, they really learned how to stay curious. We saw several leaders step up on their own, doing weekly stand-ups, ask me anything, what else could we be doing, with just special focus being on the pandemic, right? And how we can role modeling, as Anjali spoke, I think became very critical. I was just reminded of a simple example when she was speaking. One of our most favorite leaders in PayPal is our CTO called Sri Shivananda. Has a line added to his signature. I quote, I don't remember verbatim, but something like, do not respond to this email over weekend public holiday unless this is marked as an emergency. For example, Shri, very simple, but
It
Shri,
sends a message.
yeah, being a CTO, his mail will be on high priority, and somehow we are always glued to our emails. And many employees would sacrifice their wellness day offs. We did exclusive wellness day offs to try and respond. So he categorically called this out, and immediately several leaders started, kind of following suit, right, and setting expectations. So I think it also became very infectious. These small examples and kind of led to another and led to another. The last one, as I think you guys rightly said, actions speak louder than words. It's very difficult for us sometimes as leaders to deprioritize our own wellness, our own PTO days, miss our sabbaticals. So we could constantly see people nudging each other to be conscious and be conscious that our teams are watching, and they unconsciously are thinking, maybe these that we value and will be rewarded for. So any wrong cue was nudged by another peer to say, don't do that, your team is watching you. Honestly, I don't think we had all the answers with it when we faced the pandemic, but we learned along the way, and listening in and leaders doing moments of truth, roundtables with new hires, specific focus segments of people, thousands of people joined us virtually. I think that helped us set the stage at PayPal.
Great, thank you. I also remember in one of our earlier conversations, you were mentioning that you very consciously announced about doing away from PMS, right, for this particular section. And that's such a huge, I mean, on one side, it's a relief, but also considering that if you say that we are going to focus on our people, so we are not going to be doing performance evaluations for, I don't know how long was that, Jayanti, for you all?
We have still not done it.
We've still not done it. Okay, so
we've done away with performance ratings, and this year as well, we have delayed our performance conversations only given we are hit by the second wave. So it's not a single size fits all again. We found some nuanced solutions by market as well.
Sure. So I think linked to that is that question, right, which we get asked also very often, that when we do some of these things, are we, how are you maintaining that balance of performance, productivity, because we're still running our businesses and our P&Ls, and especially, I mean, for PayPal, of course, it was also because I think digital payments, we all are customers, right? So you had more pressure to deliver. And similarly, you had very different pressures, Anjali, right? That your teams were not used to working in remote conditions at all. So one is leaders, and then is how do you equip and enable your managers to really do this with their teams, and especially balance the piece of genuine care and delivering performance?
Yeah, maybe I can start since I'm already on. As you rightly said, this was very tough, Preeti. I don't think it was an easy, to say we knew it all kind of a thing. Constantly, people managers to be mentored to adopt a, more empathetic way of working, right? Because as you said, the pandemic saw us, rise even more. We saw newer customer segments adopt digital. For example, the silver tech generation evolved, that we, as the coinage, I guess, also evolved during the pandemic. Essentially, people in the age group of 50 to 70 years using digitals for the first time.
Okay.
A lot of new customers, our platforms saw transaction at peak volumes that we typically only see on a Black Friday or a Cyber Monday, right? Volume is what we were saying literally every single day. At least the maximum number of products in 2020 than in every previous year. So which meant, as you said, employees needed to be there and deliver to our commitments, being a customer-centric company. But we had to constantly reiterate the human first kind of a angle. Managers were, trained, tutored, coached to take stock of deliverables and work around the needs of the employees. We did a lot of priority shifting as well. We did some newer priorities because of the way the market was reacting, but we also moved out some priorities that was, we could defer, was business as usual. We had a lot of toolkits, wellness information sessions. We hired a wellness leader for PayPal during the pandemic.
Okay.
We hired somebody we're very fortunate to have him who runs this company called Mind Matters, and he's in our payroll right now. Just helping us think through opportunities. Like for India, for example, we do weekly 2 sessions with him. For managers where it's also about their personal wellness. Sometimes they on their own while they're taking care of their teams.
True.
8 out of 10 managers, I think, knew how to adapt and change, but we always had the two that we had to work, very closely, and trying to help them with the fine balance of, work and personal, kind of challenge. So, and like you said, some of the programs we did, no performance ratings, standard 110% bonuses for everybody.
Okay.
We didn't do a.
You'll get applications after this, Jayanti, when you make those announcements.
So I think it also alleviated some of their pressures to differentiate, right? Like, say, we kind of helped them with some of that, and constant conversations, learning from peer groups, and having these coaching conversations, I think helped.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Anjali, how did you support your teams?
Yes, as I was listening to Jayanti, and I was kind of reflecting upon things that worked within Randstad, given our context and our culture as well. I would say the first thing that probably that works very well for us internally is that we are a very activity-driven organization. So we do not always tell people that, okay, this is the goal and just go for it and just follow. But we say that every goal that you achieve, or every outcome that you achieve, has a story behind it, right? There is things that you do much before which leads you to the result. So focus on that. I think that cadence, as it got built, did give people that balance to say that, okay, a lot of people were like, what will happen now? What about our job security? How about, the anxieties that we are experiencing, how the market will, kind of suddenly react? Because the reality at Randstad is that we are dependent on our clients and also the way they operate in their space, right? So it is very important that, the growth and the demand in the market continues for us to be able to also have that demand and growth. So in an environment like this, you have to ensure that your people stay focused, and that comes from the fact that you drive the story and not so much the outcome or the goal, because that can only more anxiety in your mind that I don't know how am I going to do this. This is too overwhelming for me. So I think that's one practice we have at Randstad, and it continues across businesses, across functions, and which has helped us in really being able to do what we were able to do. In fact, we did very well in 2020, and we are continuing to do well in 2021. So that's one thing. In terms of really helping your people manager, I don't think there was a playbook in place.
Yes.
Which one could say that, do 1, 2, 3, 4 and it'll all be fine. So the playbook emerged over a period of time, and today probably to some extent we can say that, okay, we have some sense of how it looks like. I think one thing we did at Randstad was helping people managers with leading remote teams. And I like the, simple things that were built into the workshop, which are so valid in today's time. One was, what is my virtual leadership style? While you have a leadership style, virtually you can be very different as a leader. Building trust in a team while you are working virtually, because you don't see them. And in an activity driven environment, how do I believe that, yes, you are doing what you are supposed to do, right? Mental well-being in a remote environment was the other topic that we kind of focused on, because how do you talk to your people about putting their mental well-being at the top, and using technology as an enabler, because now everybody moved into virtual platforms. So how do you use whatever is available to you to maximize and leverage the potential of the tools? Plus, there were workshops to help managers understand how to enhance or take, cognizant of or focus on psychological well-being. So what happens when you're working from home, and what things should managers know in terms of what you should be aware of? I think these were some things that we kind of did within Randstad, and that has helped us in bringing these conversations to the fore. And because we constantly take feedback from our people every month, we know exactly what's the mood and how is it building within the organization. So that also helps us in putting the action planning, and then seeing, okay, what more needs to be done with the people managers, right? These were something that worked for us.
Great, thank you. I think since both have large teams and you have so many managers who have to be able to do this while managing their own wellness also, I think you all can start putting in the questions, but I do want to ask one question to both of you before we start on with the audience questions, which is that, like we said, leaders have their own pressures and they need to manage their own wellness also. Until we are able to manage self, we can't really manage the teams. And both of you are at very high pressure positions yourself, managing this for your entire organization. So what was it that you did, or what worked for you to manage your own wellness during this entire era which continues?
I guess I'll go first on this one. I think one piece that personally worked very well for me, and I've become a big believer, is that when you are physically fit, it does help you in being mentally fit.
Hmm.
That's something I believe, that's something that worked for me. And personally, since 2020, when we've all been into lockdown and Randstad has continued working from home, I kind of gave that a lot of focus. I would say probably earlier we weren't able to do it so much because of whole traffic in Bangalore, as coming and going. So that's something I have done, and it has really brought a lot of discipline and focus personally for me, and I have really, kind of benefited from it. One of them is the lifestyle change. It's what you eat, how you eat, the quantity, and also you really focusing on what's going inside you, right? I mean, not just kind of putting in whatever junk comes in front of you is something I've done, and I think it works. And I'm definitely a believer of that, and I hope people do try it, and it kind of works for them. I personally share this internally at Randstad. I lost 5 kgs ever since the world went into lockdown. So I really kind of feel that such benefits can be done, and of course with the right thing. I'm not a believer of crash diets and things. It's about really like the way you do things for your mental well-being, and
Just being focused of what
absolutely in
really
the same way you do it for the body. So truly mind, body, and spirit. It has to be together, and it works the best, I guess.
great. Thank you. Thanks, Anjali, for sharing that. Yeah, Jayanti, what was your secret?
Not as interesting as what Anjali shared. It's been tough, honestly, Preeti. It's been tough. And I'm learning. I mean, I think I've evolved in the last 1.5 years. Initially, the pressure was to, I have to finish my domestic work by 9 and then get to work and then come back again at 2. It never worked, right? The constant pressure of leaving something unfinished at work or at, your personal domestic, and we didn't have help. None of us had help, as well as you all know. So now I've learned to rejig and say it's never going to work. So I've learned to take my 15-minute breaks once every while, multiple times a day. It's okay for me to finish a meeting, go do my tadka and, do something for my dad who's at home and come back. And I'm very comfortable with that, right? It's making peace with one's own and trying to fit. Like she said, being disciplined about health. I'm still learning. I still have some miles to cross, but I try to make it a habit of doing something at least for 30 minutes. Guru, who's our India head, has today challenged me for a yoga challenge with Yoga International Yoga Day. So inspiration to now start getting to formal yoga as well. So I've enrolled in a yoga class, and I've dabbled with multiple things in the last 1.5 years. Tangier painting to, painting for newbies and beginners to the works, right? Anything fancy, I sign up, learn to kind of get some time out for myself. So different things. I don't think I found the perfect solution, but still dabbling.
No, thank you. I think that's the first thing, right? For us to be first accepting that this is a challenge all of us are facing, going through. Nobody has answers, and we are humans too. So we have we. It's absolutely okay to say that we couldn't manage this. And I so relate to what you were saying, that in the beginning you felt that no, this has to be my time. Now that if 10 or 9:30 or whatever, we also said the official working hours are 9 to 7. Within that, you choose your time. Of course, anybody can step out at, we have our shopping hours and lockdown hours and all of that. But mentally, initially there was this thing that, oh no, if it's 10 and my meeting, unless you have a client meeting, and it's up to you when you want to start, when you want to do a particular thing. But it took all of us some time to adjust to that. And so heartening to know that both of you brought in that focus. And I'm seeing a whole host of questions coming in. And Paul, thank you for that message. You are the leader, torchbearer of that Be Kind to Your Mind. So I have, okay, let me just read this first one. Okay, the first one was actually came in during our chat, and maybe that one we can say. It says, what if your company wants you to work 24/7 at work from home, which is a reality, I think, which is what started. But honestly, it is, unless we are robots, it's humanly impossible, right, to work 24/7. And both our leaders here work across geographies, all of that. So I think it's absolutely okay to say that, okay, this is my working time, as long as you're managing your deliverables. And I think leaders definitely have to understand that, organizations have to understand that. If you are in a situation where maybe your immediate manager doesn't, you should definitely talk about it, because nobody can work 24/7. Yeah, so we'll probably pick up the next question. It says, do you think well-being champion leaders opportunities would increase across various organizations given the realization of its importance? Okay, so this is about a role. That do you think that something like wellness champions or leaders is a role that will sort of see importance? What do you think, Jayanti, Anjali?
Yeah, I think Jayanti spoke about the wellness mentors thing. I guess the questions might be coming from there as well. But I think, I don't know whether we'll call it well-being champions or leaders, but definitely, if not that, the line manager's role as being the well-being champion is definitely coming up, because more and more organizations are realizing that health is of extreme importance, right? And both mental and physical here, I would like to speak about. And so the ways have to come out, and I do not believe that there has to be one person who should be responsible for it. There has to be multiple set of people, starting from the leadership to the line managers, who should be. And that's where the more awareness we create in these group of people, the more we will see that this becomes literally gets rooted in the culture of the organization, that it becomes part and parcel of all of us. So you don't necessarily need to have that designation. So it's about really creating that culture in the organization. And so, as I said earlier, keep speaking about it, use every platform to emphasize on it, because it's not a topic which would kind of go past the moment you are in the, the next new normal, which comes after the second or the third wave goes away, right? So that's my take on the way the role will emerge.
Thank you, Anjali. Jayanti,
Yeah.
your view.
Yeah, I think on the previous question as well, Preeti, the company wants us to work 24/7. I think what worked for us and our employees is that, we kind of encouraged, and people feel very comfortable to mark focused days or focused times on their calendar, which clearly is a message saying this is my time. They can block the calendar, and the managers understand that they can't be disturbed at these times. It's not like everybody has to be available for every meeting. So if HR folks are on the call, I'm sure we can influence that kind of a culture, and people should take the liberty to say, okay, these are the times that I will have my personal time, right? And encouraging people to take time off, because people were very uncomfortable taking PTOs, right? Like I can't go on a vacation. What do I do? And just pushing people to take wellness days off also helped. I think well-being champion, I agree with Anjali. I think one thing that has emerged for us is the employee resource groups have started to play a pivotal role here, right? We're seeing a new dimension actually evolve in whether it is our, groups. We have something called Unity for Women, or, Pride, and so on, several other groups for the Asian community, and so on and so forth. We've seen them take on the mantle of real ambassadors and champions, and creating their own lean-in circles. So I'm just thinking, as HR professionals, how do we tap into that energy, kind of take it beyond just the elements of, diversity and inclusion, to say wellness as well, and, create something a little more programmatic there. Is, I think, how it will evolve.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take, and I think I was having a conversation with another, HR leader, and that's what he said. That one learning he had was that it's a team sport, and never should we feel as HR team members or just this saying that yes, of course you are anchoring it, you are enabling. HR is always an enabler, but in something like this one, every people manager is a wellness champion, and probably the ERGs that you have in the teams, and whether it is ideas on what to do and how to do, you see so many people just jump in and actually contribute. And I think we have seen India Inc. step up during this time, and also people going beyond their employees, really supporting communities, right? Like we at a Great Place very recently were looking at what all we could do beyond the organization, and we partnered with Adventures Beyond Barriers, because it just didn't strike us, because nobody in media really reports that persons with disabilities have very different kind of challenge just to even get vaccination, which was a very simple thing. Of course, we all were struggling about slots and all, but there even to register, if somebody needs a support for day to day, there was no question of social distancing. So it was just something which didn't strike us till we had that conversation, right? And as soon as I think we wrote to people, and all of you must have seen, there's so many organizations, employees within our own team just jumped in and thought of ways. And right now that movement is going very strong. There are some 500 people who have been vaccinated, and it's just different people at their own times. And I love that concept of focus time also, right? Everyone needs that focus time. You decide, you choose, and you mark it out depending on your home context, because that's what is playing a primary role in all of our current ways we work, right? So thank you. I do see some questions. I also know that we are towards the end of time, but I see quite a few attendees out there. So I will just take one more question, which is saying that if an employee opens up about saying about anxiety or depression or any such mental health concerns, would you support them to take time off from work while you figure out the business continuity plans? So I'm sure we've all had these. Would you like to share, Janvi, Anjali?
Yeah, so I think we've done that. If you look at second wave, there were so many people who were affected, including their family being affected. There was no way we could have asked them to be at work, right? So there was, and I think organization kind of realized how to manage situation in times like these. So we had a message internally that you just do what is must-haves. You don't have to get into good to haves and nice to have sort of a situation and try to manage everything. And with that, if you try, you will be able to manage what is immediately required by the business. So in fact, we encourage, but a lot of people still kind of feel that they can't manage work and that pressure even after coming back. They really want to completely be off that. And we have experienced those situations with people reaching out saying that what to do. I really want to take a complete off with nothing of work sort of playing on our head. So we do try coach people saying that, see, it's a short-term situation.
Okay.
In the long term, you will require a job. And so at that point in time, we are there for you. So take a off and kind of come back is what we always encourage. And especially women who kind of, juggle with so many things at work, managing in-laws, managing kids, managing their own parents also at times. So it becomes very challenging for them. So we always coach them. Sometimes it does not help. They do decide not to continue, but sometimes it does help and they stay back and we kind of have the employee with us. So this is what has been our practice and it works. And I think as organizations, we've figured out how to manage situation because we've been running on BCP for almost 1.5 years now, right? So with the situation changing constantly. So yeah.
I think just to add, Preeti, I think the pandemic, I think also reiterated the importance of all our people managers and leaders to be trained in managing mental wellness issues. That's a huge learning that we had as well, right? Because take off, it's not only about situations at work, right, that cause anxiety or depression. We saw several situations that they were dealing with in their lives, which came to the forefront. And managers, I don't think they're equipped around how to deal with that, right? I don't claim that HR are also absolute pros in being able to manage mental wellness. So we had to really index on coaching our HR teams, our people managers, anybody who's the front line, with people to be able to deal with such mental wellness issues, right? And it opened up a new, foray of learning for every it's absolutely critical for us to do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And I think that's something we've seen as well. And in fact, we were doing one session where we had a medical practitioner with whom I was doing this. And in that opening statement, I was just saying that, yes, 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 3, like what is the data we have seen earlier, go through this. And she just stopped me and she said, no, Preeti, it's all of us, right? So I think the first is that acknowledgement that especially in the current context, all of us are going through stress, anxiety, whatever. The strength of it or how much of it would vary, right? But there is some level of stress all of us have. There will be moments of anxiety. We are humans, we are not robots. So first is just accept it and say, okay, this is normal. And a few of the people may need a medical help or a therapist or a practitioner who can guide them. But a very, very large number just need what both Jayanti and Anjali said, that it is that sensitization of managers, us as peers, to say sometimes it's just about listening to them. And it is okay because all of us will go through that phase, right? So I think it starts there. It's good to see that in India Inc. and even otherwise, there is so much more acceptance today than there was earlier. So maybe from a 2.75%, it's at about 11-12% at an average, which is still very, very low. But it is still a huge multiplier from the pre-pandemic days. So I think we are all on a journey. We are all learning, and we will get there, I think, is really the message. Thank you so much, Anjali and Jayanti, once again. Thank you to all our attendees. We do see your questions. We'll try and answer and even share whatever we have learned. And do keep sharing your learnings as well, because I did see that quite a few of our attendees, all of you have had your experiences. Many senior folks are there in the audience. So do share in, and we will keep this series going, and we will collectively bring out whatever the learnings are and share with all of you. Thank you. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you, Preeti.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take care. Bye. All of you
Yes,
stay
bye-bye.
safe. Thank you.